So a couple of days ago, I had the chance to try out the Zelda Escape Room Defenders of the Triforce, and you've probably heard all about it if you listened to our discussion that we posted recently, in which I sat down with my good friends who were there with me, and we talked about our impressions and experience with it and how it stacked up to other escape rooms. The catch though is we didn't have any pictures or videos to show you because we couldn't take any, and Nintendo didn't provide us with any in time for the discussion. However, they have since come through and we now have some video and screenshots to show you, so I figured I'll give you a quick tour of what to expect from the escape room, at least in picture and video form. So yeah, as you can see here, this is a pretty big room. There were, I think, around 150 people, if not more, here. But the thing is, even though this is huge by escape room standards, you're still only working as a small group. So every table here is their own group. You can have up to 6 people per group, and you can see me somewhere in here too. In fact, you'll probably see me pop in and out of some of these scenes. It's a little bit like Where's Waldo here. So right now, this scene is before the game takes place, or before it got started. But they had a projector at the front of the room, which actually did provide a story, which you can see here with all the lights flashing. And for the story, though, it was just like Ocarina of Time artwork with it moving around in a flash animation-based style. It wasn't particularly impressive, and the ending was pretty similar too. Yeah, now here you can see a bunch of people working on the early game puzzles. So everyone's wearing a green hat. At some point you'll upgrade to a red hat, but for right now this is all early game stuff, and you can see people working from a binder. All the stuff came in the binder, was already on the table when we got there, but they told us not to look at it until the game actually began. So once it started, there were probably, I think, 6 or 8 initial puzzles in there, which you could, you know, split up among your group to try and get through them even quicker. Yeah, and they were all like paper-based puzzles, so I mentioned in our discussion, it reminded me of like the puzzles you find on the side of a Happy Meal. They were way tougher than that, don't get me wrong, but it just reminded me of like having that kind of worksheet style puzzle, as opposed to a physical based puzzle. But there were some physical puzzles that come up, and we'll get to that in a few moments here. So once you work your way through the initial round of puzzles, that's when you could start, that's when the game opened up a little bit, and that's when you actually left your table and you had to check in at Zora's domain. And this is where the game, this is probably my favorite part of the game, is when you're actually going to these different regions, which were sectioned off by these, you know, with the fabric or the curtains here, and inside you had these little themed areas which you had to grab something from, or maybe look for a clue or something. So in Zora's domain, initially you actually see Jabu Jabu's mouth open up, and you grab a treasure chest from him, and that chest is used for puzzles. First off, you want to unlock the chest, but in order to do that, it's incorporated into some puzzles as well, which is pretty cool. I really liked when they took physical elements and made them part of the puzzles to, you know, to unravel more puzzles. That was fun. Also, I want to mention too, you know, there are actually a few different regions here. There was Zora's domain, then there was Goron City, there was the Kokiri Village, and then also the Temple of Time. And for each one, they had an actor out front who would guide you through, or, you know, they would allow you in if you met the criteria, and then they would guide you through what you needed to do next. And I say that very loosely, because the directions were very loose. But the actors for these sections were awesome. I loved the enthusiasm they had, and the energy they tried to capture of, you know, the essence they tried to capture of these characters. And I have to give particular credit to the Goron guy, which you can see here dancing around. He did a great job, I love that. And also the Kokiri girl, who I have to say I kind of have a crush on, because she did such a great job capturing, like, you know, going all in, capturing the essence of these characters, and we'll ignore the fact that I have a crush on a character who's like, you know, 10 or something. We'll totally gloss over that fact. But they did a great job. They really added to the energy, and I wish there was more of that, because you're only interacting with them for maybe 10 to 20 seconds at most at a time. Because you only have, one of the problems here, well, maybe, I guess one of the issues that came up is these rooms aren't very big. Only one team was allowed them at a time, which meant that if there was a team in there already, you couldn't go in, you know, until they left. So for the most part, it wasn't a big deal, but early on especially, you would have these long lines to get into some of the early regions, because you had to wait for them to finish before you can move in. So if you took a little longer to solve a puzzle initially, that kind of came at the expense of, you know, that kind of slowed you down even more because you had to wait in a queue. Which is unfortunate, because this is a time-based thing and you only have an hour, which isn't that much time. I think only 4 groups in the entire game solved, you know, got through all the puzzles. And there were 25 tables, so that wasn't very many. But yeah, you know, again, the rooms are well themed. I really like them. I wish there was more of them. I wish they were incorporated more. Otherwise, once you left a region, again, you're only in there like for 30 seconds at a time. You go back to your table, you solve more puzzles, and then that would allow you to reach the next region. So you go, it was very linear. So you go from, you know, Jabu Jabu or Zora's Domain to Goron to Kokiri, then to the Temple of Time, and then at some point in there was another section, I forget what it was called, where you threw jars at the target, which was silly but fun too. So again, that stuff was all that. I really liked all that, and I wish there was just more of it. Otherwise, there really isn't too much to say here, too much else to say, that we didn't already cover in depth or more in depth in our discussion. You can see there is, you know, there are a lot of people moving around to and fro from the tables to the games, and that's actually another one of my complaint is our table was like almost in the middle-ish, back-ish section, so which meant every time we're running around, we had to pass through all these people, wind our way to our table, as opposed to some people who are on the edge who had a slight advantage. So yes, I am bitter the fact that we didn't solve our puzzle and we lost to Ganon. Man, we totally failed you, Hyrule. Yeah, I'm just looking through the footage real quick to see if there's anything else I want to note. It was kind of fun to see other journalists here. This was a media event that happened the day before it opened officially. Oh, in this scene, which I'll have to put up here, you can actually see me. We're going from, I don't know which region, back to our table. You can see I was trying to decipher a puzzle on the way. Yeah, and they also had a Switch there. So when you were done with the event, you could go play the Switch and Zelda. We didn't bother since we've already done that and the line is pretty long. But it was cool that it was there. So if you have tickets to any of the escape rooms, make sure to check out Zelda and the Switch while you're there as well. They also had this little area off to the side where you could take pictures afterward with a Master Sword. And they had, you know, typically escape rooms have signs you can hold, either an exclamation or dismay of winning or losing. And one of them they had there was, "Excuse me, princess," so I of course had to hold that one up. And I think that might be the first time anything Nintendo related, like officially related, has ever referenced the CDI games in any official capacity. So that, or rather, I'm sorry, not the CDI games, but the cartoon, which is kind of amazing. I don't know if Nintendo's ever really done that before. So yeah, that was kind of fun to see. Otherwise, yeah, I mean, again, if you want more in-depth impressions, check out our discussion. You can hear from me, my friends Aaron Thomas and Tom McShay, who used to work with a GameSpot, who attended this event with me, along with a few other friends who didn't hop into our discussion, but were there, and you can see in this video as well. So overall, you know, again, just to recap, I had a fun time. Maybe my expectations were a little bit too high. I'm not sure if the event fully justifies the $40 base cost of what it costs to get in. $45 at the door, I believe, for if you book in advance. And I think you have to book in advance, but I'm pretty sure they completely sold out, at least at the San Francisco event. And I think at some of the others I looked at too. But yeah, you know, it's cool. As a novelty, it was fun. Definitely go with people you know that will enhance the experience. Yes, I just wanted to give you a quick look at it and give you a better idea of what to expect. So thanks for sticking with me here, and of course stay tuned to Game Explained for more on Zelda in general and the Switch and everything else Nintendo related too. Catch you guys later. Bye.